All right. Well, we will get started. We recording?
Yes.
Well, hello to those of you who are online or watching the recording. This is the City of Tucson's fiscal year 27 HUD Annual Action Plan Community Consultation Session. My name is Andrew Paredes, and I am the Community Development Administrator here at the City of Tucson's Housing and Community Development Department. The agenda for today is to go over the HUD Consolidated Planning and Annual Action Plan process that's followed annually prior to and during and after the appropriation and receipt and use of HUD entitlement program funds. This is an opportunity for community members to offer their input to the city, and the city will outline its preliminary plans for use and spending of next year's HUD entitlement funds. We will be seeking public input to our draft annual action plan starting March 25th. That plan will be formally presented in a public hearing to mayor and council on April 21st. Following that and any public input, the plan will be submitted to HUD for approval prior to May 15th. The city annually receives 4 different entitlement program or block grant funds from the federal government through the Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. Those are Community Development Block Grants, or CDBG, Home Investment Partnership Funds, or HOME funds, Emergency Solutions Grant, or ESG, and the Housing Opportunity for Persons with AIDS, or HOPWA. Every 5 years, the city is required to develop a consolidated plan for how it will spend and prioritize those HUD entitlement programs. The city begins that process by going out to the public, seeking as much input as we can get, and then developing a 5-year plan for spending and projects and activities with those funds. Each year, in that 5-year cycle, the city will update its annual action plan, letting the public know how we plan to, come on in, how we plan to administer the funds and what the funding priorities will be for that upcoming year. Hello and welcome.
Okay, I was looking for
the city then will implement its annual action plan and then report out to HUD and the public using what we refer to as the CAPER, or our annual action plan report to HUD. The city started this annual planning process for this most recent cycle in 2024 with an update to its People, Communities, and Homes Investment Plan, or PCHIP. So each 5 years, the city uses this planning process not only to renew the city's I'm looking for the word and it's escaping me. I'm so sorry. I'm going to get it for you. Gotcha. The city uses what we refer to as the PCHIP, not only to come up with the city's 5-year strategic plan, but we also marry that and dovetail that into our HUD consolidated planning process. This most recent round was done in 2024, and you can see on the left of the slides all the groups that were engaged in this planning process. And on the right-hand side, the survey and the respondents' feedback with regard to what was most pressing or what was the greatest need in the community. As you can see, lack of affordable housing option and homelessness, kind of far outpaced all of the other priority areas, with crime and safety and access to transit, coming up in kind of that middle tier. I'd say that the crime and safety focus at the city is primarily the purview of the city manager's community safety and wellness division or department, and transportation, the primary focus of the city's Department of Transportation and Mobility. All of the other areas of focus are those that the Housing and Community Development, or HCD, department within the city is primarily responsible for kind of administering, rolling out funds and programs. This next slide, you will see the city's HCD funding priorities for addressing these areas of need, primarily through our HUD entitlement program funds. Remember, that is the Community Development Block Grant, the Home Investment Partnership, the Emergency Solutions Grants, and the Housing for Persons with AIDS. Next, we're going to go into the anticipated funding budget for this next fiscal year with the city's entitlement program funds. The first of which we'll talk about are the Home Investment Partnership. It's a little bit unique for home funds. The city of Tucson and Pima County have formed a consortium. So the city and the county, for just this funding source pool, that each jurisdiction's respective entitlement funds into one big pot of money that then the city and county work together to administer every year. So our projected funding for this next year for the home funds are approximately $3.3 million. Those funds will be divided amongst rental housing development for affordable housing, tenant-based rental assistance, primarily focused on assisting housing choice voucher or Section 8 recipients with security deposit assistance, down payment assistance to low-income prospective home buyers, community housing development organization or CHODO funds, which in the past have been used by local nonprofits such as Habitat for Humanity to create home ownership opportunities for low-income families, and residential rehab for low-income homeowners, primarily health, safety, and wellness improvements and necessary upgrade to homes that low-income families currently own, but need kind of urgent health and safety upgrades to those units. And then the city, through just the city's Housing and Community Development Department, administer 3 other entitlement funding programs each year with HUD funds. The first of which are our Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG grants. 15% of those funds are set aside for human and public services, focused on seniors and youth, homelessness, education, disability services, legal services, and domestic abuse services. Decent and affordable housing, these are funds that are funneled into our homeowner rehabilitation programs, accessibility improvements, rental housing acquisition and rehab, accessory dwelling unit pilot programs, and clearance and demolition of slum and blight. And then 45% of our funds are for community facilities and improvements. So these in the past have been, for example, purchase and conversion of a motel to a shelter operation, for upgrades to shelters, to install playgrounds and shade structures. Thinking of other CDBG. Currently, a big CDBG project this year and next year is the conversion of the old Econo Lodge motel to a transitional housing. And in the next few years, the city has earmarked and committed to HUD to use some of our CDBG entitlement in the Choice neighborhood Thrive in the 05 zone, just north here of downtown, to go along with the $50 million Choice neighborhood grant that the city received from HUD. We expect this next fiscal year that about $200,000 of that will be spent for 15th Street sidewalk improvements. Total anticipated CDBG resources from HUD next year are approximately $5.1 million. Anticipated emergency solutions grant resources next year, about $445,000. And you can see the anticipated activities that the city will fund with these with the ESG resource. And then our housing opportunity for persons with AIDS or HOPWA anticipated at about $1 million and anticipated to be used in these 4 or 5 activity areas. I think it's important to note that the city, not only through this consolidated plan 5-year process, but each annual action plan lays out for the public the city's input received, anticipated activities, but also of note that the city annually holds an open call for projects or RFP for use of the home rental and home ownership development opportunities, as well as an every other year call for projects for proposals from local nonprofits and community-based groups for use of the, I'm going to go back to that CDBG slide, Kat. We issue an every other year call for projects for that, approximately $700,000 of human and public services grants. So those would be grants to seniors and youth organizations doing different projects and programs throughout the city. Homelessness response, food banks, literacy programs, and things like that. The city takes applications every other year and awards grants to local organizations on a 2-year grant cycle. So now it's time to hear from those that are in person. We have one in person. Those of you that are online and those of you that are watching the recording, we will keep this open through March 25th using that QR code. So anybody and everybody can provide feedback. Again, this feedback will inform the final draft of our annual action plan, which will be presented to mayor and council for both mayor and council feedback as well as public feedback on April 21st. And that will inform the final plan that is submitted to HUD. So with that, I will open it to first here in the room, anybody who has any questions or public comments.
I don't really. I mean, I'll introduce myself. I'm Suzanne Schaefer, and I'm here on behalf of Tucson Food Share. Okay. We're located at Grant and Stone, and we really just want to be part of this community, part of the conversation, have a good understanding of what resources are available to the people of the community that we work with. Yep. We have lots of volunteers and lots of, and we have our space, but our numbers are really up. We have a lot of visitors 3 times a week. We deliver food. We always run out. We, need sources of funds, but we're also, when I look at the housing community, which I'm not deep into, I want to learn more. I'm very aware that we're very in touch with people who are housed, not all of them, obviously. We deal with many people who are unhoused, but people who are housed and hungry. They're out there. They don't have transportation. They don't have enough food. They may be in danger of eviction. And some of them have lived where they've lived for a very long time. And the food insecurity is just sort of still there. So we want to be connected.
I appreciate that. I know that in this, we're just wrapping up the first year of our 2-year grant cycle. Mm-hmm. I believe that we use community development block grant funds for community food banks. And I think that also a city general fund grant was awarded to mobile meals, or maybe that was in the past. I'm looking at Kat for help.
We actually have that very last tail end of the ARPA funds. We are using some of that right now. It's going to be done in November. Okay. And so we're going to be back into a different situation in terms of being able to keep up with our wholesale supply budget.
Historically,
so
we
we're-
have partnered with Mobile Meals of Southern Arizona, but we also fund Community Food Bank. But I've talked extensively with LaDawn from Mobile Meals about partnership. So they're very eager to partner with other, smaller organizations to try to expand the network. I don't know if that's something that y'all had thought about or interested in.
I'd also add that this is a good opportunity, one, to make sure that we have you all's contact information so that you're part of more of these engagement sessions.
We did receive the invitation to this one, that's why.
We will be rolling out a new RFP in November of this year for the subsequent 2-year cycle. And in advance of that, I suspect we will have probably a better attended in-person community forum, because many organizations are always looking for the nuts and bolts of how to apply, but that also can result in some organic, like, how can we work with each other? And, oh, I didn't know you were doing that at your affordable housing project. That would be a great referral source for our folks and vice versa.
Yeah, we really like to connect with the transitional housing, because we can both make each other's operations more useful to people by knowing what each other's doing and supporting each other, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you. And certainly what you do is strikes me as one, very necessary, and two, eligible for an upcoming RFP round. So please do continue to keep an eye out for that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Do we have anybody online with any questions?
It doesn't look like we have anything in the chat.
Okay. Well, then I will wrap up by going over the calendar. So we had our community engagement session today. We also have very much a carbon copy of this session. Today's was kind of blast out by invitation to community groups that we work with extensively or who have expressed interest in the past. On Thursday, we have a public hearing open to anybody in the community here in the same room and online from 3:30 to 5:30. And following that, we will take public comments through the QR code, or that can be just organically emailed in, as well as note-taking for comments received today. That will inform the first draft of our annual action plan, which will be posted online March 25th. That will be open to the public for 30 days to receive further comment on the annual action plan prior to going to mayor and council for approval on April 21st. I do realize there's some overlap there, so we will likely gather public comment through the 21st to inform mayor and council, and then finish with our 30-day HUD mandated comment period for the public that will then go into our final draft, which must be sent to HUD by May 15th in order to be eligible to receive next year's funding on or after July 1st. So that's kind of why, the steps from here to receiving our funding on or after July 1st for next year's programs. With that, and seeing no more online comments, we will formally close this consultation session and look forward to seeing anybody in attendance on March 12th. Have we stopped the recording? Great. Well, thank you for coming. I appreciate you. I'm sorry there weren't more community members, with which you could engage or network.
You just never know what to expect.
You don't. These are